that up there.
You want?
Sorry, change buildings.
Yeah. Just send it.
So I incorporated your comments from the last meeting, as well as I got some additional emails from Fred and Tyson that I added some information. I got more stuff from Tyson this afternoon. I haven't had a chance to, but no, it's okay. It's your job. I haven't had a chance to incorporate that in yet, but I'd be happy to, if you want to discuss it further with this group, we can do that. Yeah, at this point, I'm working with my graphics team to update some of the charts and graphs. I'm considering removing several of the maps because they're out of date, but we're going to have a new zoning map once we can decide on a zoning map, and I'll keep it in the transportation map, the viewshed map, open space map, a couple of those things. But some of the housing information in particular is so out of date, and honestly, it's going to take so much time to recreate that. I'm just going to delete that information, those old maps, and we'll do it. We'll start in July. We'll do it over in the summer. It's great information, and I would love to be able to replicate it, but it takes more time than we have right now.
Yeah.
So. Yes, Angela.
Is there even a need to include the zoning map in the general map?
Yes. Yes.
Well, I mean, the land use in terms of general, I don't know, there's sort of a high level general land use versus the actual parcel.
Well, I mean, we don't necessarily need it parcel by parcel in the plan itself, but we need to have one somewhere in reference so that we can, once we have zoning ordinances that are ready to enforce, we can tell which side of the street gets enforced which way.
And with regard to the zoning map, do we have to have that zoning map completed before we can move forward with the zones that we're all reviewing? Do we need to, like, we need to get a general plan? That's our overarching umbrella or our foundation, however we look at it. Does the zoning map need to come next? Does that need to be a priority for us to get right on it, or before we keep progressing with these, or can we progress with these and then get the zoning map completed? Help me understand.
So the request that I have from the city council is to try and incrementally adopt new ordinances, zoning ordinances. We'll start with the easy stuff that's not controversial, that we're not making big changes to. And if we can get those adopted and we can get those agreed on as a planning commission, and then you send them to the city council. And again, if they agree on them and they can get them adopted, then we can start moving land use permit applications forward in those zones now, instead of waiting until the end of May or the end of June when the moratorium expires. The problem is we must have a map in place so that I can show a property owner. Now, the map does not need to be complete. We can adopt the zones incrementally as well. We can say, all right, we're going to adopt all of the AV3 zone, and we're going to draw that out on the map wherever we want AV3. This is going to be AV3. This is the ordinance that applies to it. Everything else is unzoned, and we do not allow building there. We'll modify the moratorium to that extent. Okay. And we can do that, week to week, or, every couple of weeks as we get things adopted. That was kind of the strategy that the city council asked us to pursue. I think that's doable, but.
And I guess maybe I'm being too nuanced, I'm not sure. But so if we, for example, I'll use AV3 as the example since it's first on the list right there. If we say, okay, we've got the AV zone with the ordinances ready, and then do we have to simultaneously say, here's the piece of the map that goes with it?
Yes.
That goes to the, okay.
Yes, and that means you need to sit down and say, okay, this is the old AV3 zone that the county designed. Is that the one we want to stick with, or do you want to move it because we have to get down to a parcel level of detail
Absolutely.
to say, well, this property is in that zone and the neighboring property is not.
Right, gotcha.
You know, we've got to have that
That
start.
assumption.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for that clarification.
So if we propose a change to a zone.
The map or the ordinance?
The
map.
the map, yeah.
Yeah.
It's gonna impact the map.
It's gotta go,
Absolutely.
it's gotta go forward with it.
What would you suggest is the best way, like if we do want to make a modification, what's the best way for us to do that as a group or get that to you?
Well, as a group, we've got to decide on, you know, what the changes are. I mean, we're gonna have to just either zoom in on the map on the website, or you know, I can print out some. I've got some 11 by 17s of zones, but we may have to do something, you know, bigger. Like I could bring in a big 36 by 48 map and just lay it out on the table, and you start going over the parcel lines with a marker and say, okay, this is in, this is out, this is, you know. And we'll have to zoom in on areas where, you know, the parcels get small and tight, and sometimes we've got little janky, you know,
Okay, right.
jigsaw
But
puzzle pieces that we've got to figure out.
Those are gonna be some pieces that come as we
Okay.
start being ready to move pieces forward. Okay, sorry if I digress, Brian. Let's go back to
Well, that's
the
whole part of this general plan conversation is we've got to
Okay,
figure out ultimately, we've got to have something to recommend
perfect. Thank you.
before we can adopt a final product there. So. All right.
Okay, we'll keep walking us through here.
Yeah, yes, let me figure out what I'm sharing. Oh, okay, so many buttons to click. Gotta make sure I'm clicking the right one. I guess my question is, have you had an opportunity to look through the text again since
I went through, although.
Friday?
Yeah, I went through, it's a little more tedious because it's all in black, so I can't, you know, it's like making sure I saw what was changed and what
Oh, I
happened.
see.
So
Okay.
that was where, if you could direct my eyes to make sure I didn't miss chunks. I did see, some, you know, some of the things, for example.
So Ron, you removed the canyon piece, correct?
Yes, I took out, I mean, there was a page or two on the canyon.
And there was stuff on canyons, there was stuff on Powder Mountain, on Nordic and, you know, East. I saw those things are out. There were quite a number of references to county that he got changed to Tioga Valley City.
So
The.
Well, let me see. There's a better way to do this.
Oh, yeah. Page is that? On page 8, Terry was just noticing that it references the ongoing hydrological study.
Yeah, that
It
was
was already completed.
So that's more just a sentence that probably.
Is that,
Page
It is.
8.
I see it, yeah, but I mean, is that? So, I mean, is that an important change that needs to happen now?
That's
It's just kind
I'll
of
clean that up
You think, okay,
to make sure that it references an existing study.
yeah, okay,
There were a couple of places in there that I had highlighted.
Yeah.
So I made some modifications on this page for open space and agriculture.
Which page is that?
Sorry, it's hard to read on the screen there, but it's page 8.
Page 8, numbered page 8, or page 8 on the
No, I'm
scrolling
sorry.
at the bottom?
Numbered page 7.
Numbered page
Okay.
7.
Yeah, it's page 15 on them.
Did you say
Oh, yeah.
open space and agriculture, Brian? Is that
Yeah,
what you said?
open space and agriculture. This is under the
What page, like PDF page maybe?
So,
Yeah, I think that it was part of that, the understanding that farming and agricultural operations result in noises, those things.
No, that was actually persistent from the old plan.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's
You don't want farms when you buy a farm.
Mhm.
And don't try to run the swathers off the road when they're trying to get where they need to go.
What pages are you on?
He's on page
This
7.
is on
of the
page 7.
Let's say page 15. What do you call the difference between that? Cause that I kept trying to.
Yeah, so it's because
It's
there's
page
8 or
7
9
on
pages.
but-
There's 8 or 9 pages of introduction
Yeah,
that are numbered using Roman numerals.
yeah, right.
This is Arabic numeral 7.
Arabic numeral 7, and if
Page.
you scroll it, like, where are we in the big document, it's page 15, so the black bar at the bottom of the PDF document.
Yeah, the
There you
PDF
go.
document is page 15. In the clean air and water section, I added some that Tyson recommended about stating the function of the hydrologic function of the basin
Mhm.
that the community is located in. I also incorporated some recommendations into land use goals and objectives a few pages down
Okay.
that relate to water quality and quantity protection.
Great. Okay, where are those? And then those on page 8, they're the surface water resources at the top.
Well, no,
Keep rolling down.
keep going down. It gets down to page document page 10, PDF page 18.
Okay,
Got it.
goals, principles, and implementation.
Yep.
You,
Although let's see, the first one's that page is just view sheds, air and water.
well, that clean air and water goal is on page 11 is what I have.
Yeah. Except that's not where I added the
There it is.
Incorporate air and water quality protections into the review and approval
Right.
process. And promote energy efficient and sustainable development practices to improve and protect air and water quality.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and this was where I think Tyson sent me some additional comments earlier. I think this is where we could expand on some of those goals.
Oh, from his
To-
comments today, the ones
I
that
just
you
emailed them earlier.
Yeah, he sounded like
Oh,
I was in a
Great.
meeting with Don and Peggy, so I haven't had a chance to read it.
I don't expect you to reply everything. And on which particular part are you looking at right now, though, to make sure I'm.
Page 11.
clean air and water quality principles 1.1 and 1.1.
That's screen.
What?
What am I looking at? I'm on 10.
Yep, you mentioned the connection between groundwater monitoring and development review. That's an excellent excellent concept to carry through as a goal.
Yeah,
In terms of, the actual functional requirement,
Mhm.
that's gonna have to be enacted in an ordinance.
yeah,
But that's a goal that we can include in the general plan that
Right.
the ordinances need to include that sort of the development review and subdivision development ordinances need to include that level of detail in there.
I think the part that wasn't as clear as I had hoped it would be was that specifying that our total build out projections are contingent upon ongoing understanding of that hydrological
Yeah.
impact.
I want that in there too. I think that's important.
And I'm not sure exactly where that makes the most sense to put that, but just essentially just putting it out there that just because we've said, or if it does say somewhere in there that we expect that there's 10,000 residential, whatever it is, or 20,000 potential buildings that we could have in this valley, but that should be contingent upon what's actually sustainable.
Do we have, yeah,
And we know that we don't have that data at this point, but it's just not that we've stated some development goal without constraining it to ongoing understanding of what our resources are.
Mhm.
That makes any sense.
Where would that fit in?
I think he's saying if there is another clean air and water goal that he could incorporate it there. Is that what you're saying, right? Into that area, and then we have to support that with ordinances?
So goal 2. Essentially.
Goal 1 would we go
yeah, or you know, we have a clean air and water goal too
goal 2?
that says, you know, we need to explore
Okay.
ways to gain a better understanding of the actual carrying capacity of the resources within the valley.
Okay,
And
so you guys comfortable with letting him figure out how to blend that
And make
in?
sure you use the word current. Those, I know.
Well, I think it's very specific. It's not just considered. I think what his point is that if there are stated numbers and projections in this document that we're recognizing, that may change based on current studies as they.
As they appear on
Yeah.
through.
Not only
Saying-
studies, but conditions, right?
Well, the studies would reflect the conditions of yeah. So essentially we're just saying,
It's not a static number.
yeah,
Right.
whatever. It's not static. Just because there's something in here doesn't mean we don't want people assuming it's like that we had stated that a certain build out would happen if later on we find out that.
That's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You adjusted. Yeah, and it's just-
So one thing I noticed reading ahead here and that there are 8 different sources for water in the valley. Like Wolf Creek Water and Sewer.
Well, they're more than that.
Well, but there's no integration, there's no connection, there's no water commission. Is that something that should be looked at?
Those are all private water companies.
Okay, but
My assumption would be that that's something that is come up with a water commission and have a representative.
No, and I think they are talking about committees now. The city council is talking about committees. But each one of those water companies are independently owned by. And so I think they can coordinate, that, but I think that's the city council's obligation. And they are working on how to put together some committees.
so it's more of a question, do we think that should be in place? I mean,
I don't think that-
It's whether it can.
I don't know if that goes here.
I think it can in the sense of implementing Tyson's philosophy, like who then.
Yeah.
Initiates
How do you
this,
know?
the valley-wide studies and incorporates it.
what are your thoughts, Brandon?
well, I think the city council is working with a group on establishing a valley-wide water advisory board. I mean, you may even want to consider going a step further. Not today, of course, but Cache County did this 7 or 8 years ago. They finally created a water conservation district that was countywide. Because again, you've got dozens of little irrigators and municipal water suppliers and private water connections, water companies all doing, and individual wells, and they're all drawing water from the same system, in order to get a good handle on how much of water is coming into that system and how much is going out. Cache County decided, look, we need to cooperate on this, and so they created it's a conservation, it's a special district, like a conservation district. They don't actually, I mean, they do tax properties. It's like $2 a year or something, and basically just covers the salary of their executive director. But they would have the potential also to tax, to raise revenue, to initiate large valley-wide water conservation efforts or water development efforts. I mean, that's.
I don't think we can go that direction until we have that, right, that until the council is able to put together a committee to discuss some of those things.
Well, I think I think it's absolutely wise to get, all the providers together and talk. This could be, I mean, we could say, oh, let's put it as a goal in the plan to work towards, but it sounds like the city council is already working towards it, so I don't know, we can certainly stress in the plan language the importance of understanding that system and making sure that all stakeholders are involved in the process of sharing and making decisions, but
does it fit under, I'm now looking here at Clean Air Water Principle 1, promote energy efficient and sustainable development practices and incorporate air and water quality protection considerations. Doesn't that give us the umbrella we need to put that, to build upon that?
I mean, it does, yeah, from a policy standpoint, it gives you that foundational thing. You can choose to add additional steps of more detail if you want.
Is that what you were getting at, Jim? Is essentially stating an aspirational goal.
It was more of a question, it seems like there's a hole there because we all know how important water is in the valley, but yet there's so many different pieces of it that aren't connected or integrated. And so,
And I think we can have it both ways. I think we're not saying we're gonna control the water by any means by any means, but just have a partnership understanding of kind of that umbrella,
right.
Committee, commission, whatever you wanna call it, that just is exchanging data, information.
Right, so they're all on the same page.
Systems holistically. And so I think some sort of, acknowledgement of that desire, even though there's something underway now that might not be next year. So let's put something in the plan that addresses that as a priority so that we can then maintain the common understanding across utilities.
I like that.
So we're suggesting that becomes a goal for the.
It could be part of that plan.
Yeah, goal 1 and then 1.2, right? You can put it underneath there, you can make it a whole, its own clean air water goal 2.
1.1.2 would be that we have valley-wide water conservation district. Water management district.
Management,
You can word that, you get the gist at this point now, but I think just putting it under, like I said, 1.1.2. Okay. Do you wanna go around or?
Always during this time,
Push on.
Okay. Let's see, I got some information I got the note from Fred about
Mining stuff?
I did the mining, that's cleared out at the end. I don't know if you want to skip there, but
do we wanna skip down there and come back, or we wanna
yeah,
go
we can
back?
skip down here and come back.
Skip down there and come back? What page?
Good question. A
Page.
lot of white
I
space.
remember us,
Didn't get to read through. Oh,
It's just matching out.
almost there.
I got page 49,
Commercial
I think,
uses.
49
maybe,
document.
I don't know if it's document or PDF, or.
I'm gonna
Stop.
All right, page 49 in the PDF
Page 30 on the document.
and page 30 in the document. Yeah, I just originally my statement had said that mining was a historical use within the valley, limited to certain areas, certain zoning districts. We did not. It was not considered compatible with the
I think I like.
existing land uses, but Fred, took that a little bit further to take a very clear stand.
Yeah, I like that, but they.
Yeah.
That's good vision. Back up to land use. That looks like the next section was more than that.
Yep.
Wasn't there one other area?
For land use.
No, it was my.
Oh, there was. Yeah, that's true. There was a goal under. There was another goal under mining there, and I struck that language. And now that I've deleted it, I can't even remember what it was. So.
Oh, yeah. I like the way it reads.
Okay, I think it was this. I think it was this commercial development goal number 2. No, this one. It was goal number 3. It was a 3.1.2 that talked about zoning or talked about mining,
Okay.
and we just struck
Reads right now.
Well, and while I was looking for that, the table up top where it lists the pages that things occur.
Yeah, we're gonna update that.
Yeah,
I'm working with my graphics people to update that. Yeah.
like in mining, it has, like 6 or 7 different pages.
Get that out. Yes.
It was really only on 2, was the other pages, it was like reminding or something, some other word that had mining as part of
Oh, determine.
it. Yeah.
The turbine.
With determining.
Oh,
Yeah, okay.
Mining.
Good to know.
We finalize this.
Yeah, working on. All right, I can at least say that one wasn't my fault. That was the folks that wrote this original one 5 years ago, 6 years ago. So, well, I'm sure that I'll put a comment there to. Okay. All right, under land use. Yeah, I'm sorry the maps all exploded the way they did. This is the old zoning map. We'll clean this up with the new zoning map, and I'll clip everything that isn't in the city.
Okay.
All of this dark green F40.
Okay.
That's all someone else's problem now. So we'll take it off on them. Let's see. Yeah, we were talking about carrying capacity there under land use. So present and future conditions, I did update, I got the new zoning acreage by designation. You can see here.
Can I make a suggestion on this table?
Sure.
By the time this comes out and we have all of our future zoning in place, this may no longer be
It could
current.
change, yeah.
So should this say prior to X date? Because
Or just.
Or
as of
TBD,
this day.
or, yeah, as I say.
this won't be current zoning after we're done with what we're doing, right?
That's true. That's
Current
true.
zoning designations and put the date right there.
And then, yeah.
Prior Ogden Valley zoning, up until such and such or something.
Yeah, Ogden Valley zoning designations
As
as of.
Prior to, it's where we.
How about
Oh, right,
how about
into
Wheaton County zone prior to
incorporation,
incorporation?
and then we know that we need to change that.
Well, that only has some of them, huh?
Well, what I've done is I've combined all of the commercial zone into one row. Because, I mean, if I broke out CRD1 and CV2, when both together are less than, or are barely a 0.5%, I mean, I can give you a total number of acres, but we're looking at, less than 100 acres of CV2.
But I don't see the RE 15 and 20.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just because Terry and Jim and I worked at
We're
it.
good.
Yeah, oh boy, okay.
Do we need to worry about the details of this now, or do we need to make sure we have a place saver to make it accurate as Angela said, when we are done, ready to
Yeah,
put it in here?
let's do
rather than-
that, but I'm glad that Fred brought it
Yeah,
up so that I
sure.
can make sure that that's included in that placeholder, so.
Yeah, it's just that we're going to adopt this before we get through.
Yeah, again, so all of these growth trends, these numbers I've updated, yeah. But the basic, description hasn't really changed a whole lot. Carrying capacity, that's, I tried to incorporate some of Tyson's thoughts in there. Maybe there are a few other things that we can include. My changes, so this first paragraph under carrying capacity was not, I didn't change anything in there.
So did you do the paragraph after that then, or I guess you're looking for it, sorry?
Yeah, I'm trying to find where let's see. Losing place in this, sorry.
It's a lot of words.
We didn't get that far. Okay, what page are you on?
I'm on page 15.
There we go, page 15. Where on earth did I? I'm seeing. Sorry about that, Tyson. I'm not seeing where I. Maybe I didn't get that updated before I saved it. Thought I put that in there.
That's why we're going through.
Yeah,
to make sure we
going
can-
through it, boy.
Would it, I don't know, would it be easier if you redlines and then added them in language so that we can see where we are and go through it more quickly? And I know sometimes that it makes it hard to read, but it might help you read for right now. And then we can take the red lines out.
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much of everybody's time just fishing through this.
Yeah.
So, all right, yeah, I will update that, based on Tyson's comments. Yeah, I thought he had some really good things to say about making sure that, the build out was not necessarily the build out designed by zoning was not
Static.
Alright,
So it sounds like Brian's gonna make some edits, send it around, we'll all look at it one more time.
Yeah, is there anything
See if we
further?
can-
Can we? Is there anything more through here that we ought to, that would be easier for us to look at what's new, or would you wanna just highlight what's new so that, when you resend it to us, you'll have the red lines for the new things and then
yeah.
highlights through here to go, this is what's new?
so when that happens and we get this revised copy, can we make a decision of prior to the next work session that it be put on an agenda and distributed for public comment for?
I think we can, I think we need to move, I think we need to discuss it in this meeting and then agree and vote to put it forward for public comment. I think we can't discuss it. We can look at it individually when he sends it, but we can't discuss it as a group and yeah.
What you could agree to do is, once I have finished any other edits that we come up with tonight, send them out to the group. Anyway, once those are complete, that version can be made available to the public, made available to you. The public hearing can be scheduled for next week. And then you as a commission can decide if there are any additional changes, like maybe, I don't know, maybe the stuff I added was completely wrong and we gotta make more corrections next week. But that can be done after the hearing. We can also incorporate any additional changes from the hearing at that point. And then if you're still comfortable with it after the hearing and after you've had your say, then it can be recommended onto the city council. If we're not comfortable with it at the end of that meeting, then you just continue it another week.
Okay.
Maybe I don't know, schedule another public hearing for the 10th and say, we're gonna try again.
Yeah.
So,
How do we address that we announced a public hearing for today? Right here, it says public hearing on general plan.
Possible.
It got the older and there's a got change.
Oh, okay.
So if you pull out an older one, it got updated, or updated it, and the hearings pulled off of the agenda.
Okay.
yeah, there was no hearing.
All right.
So we
on the final agenda.
So we can put that on the agenda for next week.
It's already, it is on the agenda.
It's on the agenda.
We've got the notices out
Okay.
for the next several meetings, and we have hearings scheduled for each of those.
Yes.
And we turn the work group meeting into a public meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, we know, having work sessions are off the table right now, they're all meetings, so we can vote when we need to.
Got
So you're saying you can make a few edits, we can review it this week, and then next week we
It's
do the
already on the
hearing,
agenda.
and then hopefully All the ducks lined up.
So we have already noticed for a hearing.
Okay.
What I'm not certain of is the timing on when the documents need to be available to the public. The notice is out,
Right,
but that's,
I'll put that on my list of questions to discuss tomorrow with Corbin.
I think that in the too, like, this is. Corbin sent out a note for 8 o'clock meeting.
Yes.
Yeah, we have made, yeah.
So, yeah, to make sure.
Perfect.
Okay.
Lucky you.
Rise and shine.
I assume like it's pretty close, I feel like we.
Right, I feel like that could definitely
Yeah, we
get.
can get it out to the public in time.
Maybe I'll-
Sure, very much.
Maybe I'll put up on.
And that, and
Tuesday.
so. I believe the notice of public hearing is 10 days.
Yeah.
So if they have to have the draft 10 days before the public hearing, we cannot. Right?
Which would mean
We
next
don't have
week,
10
we couldn't
days
have a public
next
hearing
week.
for next week anyway,
Right.
because we don't
We don't
have.
have it fresh, right?
Yeah.
So it would have to be the following week.
Let's find out for sure.
But it's on the list, it's on the list for the discussion for Corbin tomorrow.
Good to know, just because we'll probably do iterations of this for all the ordinances. so.
Exactly. Okay. Anything more on the general plan?
I don't have anything that,
Okay,
Great.
all right, let's talk about 83. 83 is Tyson's gonna be our lead on that one. I did sent kind of a big email out to everybody, asking everybody if they could please try to read through the working draft of these 3 so that they were relatively ready to discuss. Did anybody have a chance to do that? So, but do you want to pull that up on the big screen, or do you guys have it on your computers you can pull up the new one?
the AV3 zone.
The 83 zone draft.
Is that the chorus one that you sent me, Angela?
No, it's it's chapter 1, it's at the top, it says,
I can't send it to you, if we need 2, is that the one, the first one, 3 hours ago? There's 2 that say 3 hours ago. I don't know what the difference is.
There's the final.
So when I took a look at everything Friday night, I saved new copies that were numbered as or named as final draft.
Okay, so that's the one I should send her?
So yeah,
We made
Wait,
a
let's
couple
make
small
sure-
changes, but I think it'll be much easier to read that than all the red line stuff.
on the fine draft one, okay.
Yeah,
so we're doing AB3.
yeah.
Alright, you should have that.
So since we've never done this before, is there a way you guys want to go through this zone? Like,
I think
are
what
we just reading stuff?
Yeah, no, I think what we wanted to do was go ahead and then go back and use protocol that we developed, where you take 10 or 15 minutes and explain, and then we're gonna each get to comment.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
That is reasonable. I just want to, before I start yabbering, I want to, is there a way you guys want me to focus this information? Because ultimately it's just ordinance. Do you want me to just read through it? Or do you want me to kind of just give a general overview? What's the for you guys?
Maybe changes?
An overview, and then what are some of the things that we've changed, the things that remain the same.
I am going to read the first 2 things just because I think it framed everything. So the purpose and intent of this zone, AB3 zone, is an agricultural zone intended to prioritize and sustain activity, actively operating agricultural uses while allowing low density of rural residence development that is designed to preserve viable agricultural land, protect groundwater and irrigation systems, maintain functional open space, and reduce water conflicts between farming and residential uses. And preferred uses, agriculture is the preferred use in all agricultural zones. All agricultural operations shall be permitted at any time, including the operation of farm machinery, and no agricultural use shall be subject to restriction because it interferes with other permitted uses in the zone. So if we, I'm going to pull up the zone, the zone map per se, this kind of is a big ribbon that bisects the entire valley floor. That's anything that's not commercial or condominiums. And it's a smattering of, I mean, there's definitely a lot of cluster neighborhoods and subdivisions, as well as random farmhouses, and then there's fields. As time goes on, this is the most, even though this is the line we'd like to preserve, most of us, it's privately owned and it's farmed, but it's also prime development. So as time goes on, this will become more and more houses with a smattering of farms around it. And so part of the goal of this is to ensure that what farms do remain have the best chance of succeeding financially. Not that we can control that, but we can control making ordinance that makes their life difficult. And then it focuses on ensuring that, you know, as someone builds a neighborhood around someone's farm, that they don't get a complaint about farm smells and things of that nature. These guys and gals have a right to pursue their profession, which has been here historically. We do need to, I can't remember, did you clean this up at all? Because I had one note about the way there's all these uses, right? And there's residential uses and then there's agricultural uses. And there was kind of an intermixing of the two. I didn't look closely enough. Did you separate those much, Brian? Just in the tables. That's just the one thing I think we still need to possibly change. So if you scroll down to, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Okay, like accessory uses, it's mixing things like accessory building or accessory dwelling unit, as well as aggregation of on-farm packing, storage, distribution, or agricultural product sales. And the reason I think we might need to separate that a little better is there's, like I say, there's more not farmers in this zone than there are farmers, and we need to make sure that the permitted uses for those residential zones are clearly separated, if that makes sense. And then this separates things from accessory uses to animal agricultural uses, and then agricultural uses non-animal and agricultural uses animal. And so right now it's a bit mixed up and it's just a formatting issue, I think, as far as separating those things. But I will go through the uses that changed. So we added aggregation, on-farm packing, storage, and distribution. So like a CSA or co-op. There are further definitions lower down we can go through. But this is essentially saying a farmer can pack their stuff, they can store their stuff, and they could even bring in like consumers, if you're familiar with CSAs, like where people have a farm share, and they can aggregate those things on their property. And it may sound like, of course, that's permitted, but if this was not allowed in zoning, it can be considered a commercial use that's not in this semi-residential zone. Agricultural produce sales, so the sales of agricultural products and produce on-site accessory to an agricultural operation. Some of these things previously were just in the agritourism conditional use permit. And so whatever was a low impact, I tried to move over to make it so that it was just a permitted use so that they wouldn't have to get a conditional use to sell their stuff.
So like seller eggs on site.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
On-farm processing by right, this was not clear on previous ordinance. It may get confusing because there are state and federal rules on processing, but we're essentially saying a farmer can process their animals on the property. For example, the state allows like up to 10,000 chickens that a farmer can process without having to go to like a slaughterhouse, for example. So that would be a permitted use. Custom exempt meat cutting. This would be similar to what Sunnyfield does, where there may be a meat processing plant, not like a huge slaughterhouse, but a custom where someone raises a pig, they could take it to this facility and process it. We left that as a conditional use just because there could be additional ramifications as far as traffic or odors or things like that we would want to make sure that we created some provisions if such a structure was built, that we were making sure that
Could you make it permitted with all of those stipulations
you
spelled out rather than making it conditional?
possibly, yeah. I would not be against that, and it would take some time to think about all the nuances. There might be some implications. So, something worth considering.
Okay.
I guess we can bring that up in the round table or whatever.
Yeah.
Family food production, we'll look at that lower down. That was already an existing use, but that's taking, like, what can someone in their yard have? So like, how many cows can someone have on an acre? How many chickens can they run? So that if you're like in a neighborhood in this zone, that there are some sort of thresholds to which we're saying people can't take it too far, right? They can't have 1,000 chickens in a 1 acre backyard. We'll talk about that. Yeah, like household pets, all that's the same. On-farm worker housing was something that was added. Farmers need employees, and so we put housing units or structures provided for individuals employed on an on-site agricultural operation are permitted as an accessory agricultural use. On-farm renewable energy systems, mostly added this just so that someone couldn't say a farmer couldn't have a small wind turbine or a solar panel or something of that nature, or solar panels for their pumps. On-farm equipment repair, maintenance, and fabrication. This was included to mitigate someone saying that if someone was working on farm equipment, that it was like a industrial operation, for example, in this residential use. I'm skipping some stuff that was just already allowed, like agriculture is allowed in agriculture. I'm down to, this could be an interesting discussion later on. I put cannabis production as defined by state code. Cannabis production was not allowed in the valley before, but now it's the state, there's state permitted cannabis producers. And that could be a viable farm. Like as farms get smaller, that may be a higher value crop that someone could grow. I did condition it though that industrial scale indoor grows are not permitted. With the caveat, we would not want someone building a huge warehouse to grow cannabis indoors if we did allow this use. So yeah, we're not trying to create like an industrial weed complex.
So this is just you've got the double underline under grows are, or should that double underline be grows are not, or
Grows. I think it's because they're calling grows and like a
It's treating grows like a verb, not a noun.
yeah.
grows, but would we want to include not in the underline?
It is.
It's
So if the grows are, then you have.
Grows are not permitted.
it's
I'm looking at
The underline
underline.
is just a flag.
Oh, flag, okay,
Yes, just flag.
got it.
But I want to ask you this, if you know, so industrial scale, what's the opposite of an industrial scale? It could be personal use, it would be, I mean.
You're not allowed to grow cannabis under state law unless you have a permit from the state. And
And does the state address size?
yes,
Yeah.
because you have to grow it for commercial purposes. You cannot grow it for personal use.
That's it.
I get
And
that, but I'm trying to hone in on
side of the operation.
the size.
yeah, the state regulates the operational size
Okay,
by the permits that they give out.
so we would have to be able to identify specific permits allowed
Yeah,
for that.
you're flagging a valid concern about at what point is it industrial versus
Right,
not industrial, and that's an area that probably could be kind of
okay, yeah.
yeah. This gets clarified lower down, but farm educational activities such as like field trips, farm tours, things of that nature.
Yeah, words that, some of the, FFA groups that
Yeah.
come up to
Educational.
view farms, or some of the farms that do camps and things like that, is that what that means?
I think camps would be, if it was a reoccurring thing, that might fall more into agritourism possibly, where you might want a conditional use.
Okay,
Because that's more of a, like, there's people coming day after day for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So this
And it might even be seasonal, summertime.
Yeah. I did grain elevator storage. We don't have any grain farmers in the valley, but the grain elevators are actually like the huge aggregators. So like I put that as not permitted simply as I did some research. It was essentially you wouldn't want like a huge place where you had tons of semis coming from that.
Right, yeah.
Which wouldn't happen anyway. We're not. We're just,
We don't, yeah, and we don't go granite here.
Yeah.
But I see your point.
Yeah. I'll jump down to commercial manure processing. This was not permitted before, and it still is not, but that is like, let's say you have huge pig farms and they were taking all of their pig manure and drying it to sell for commercial use. So that's not allowed, but I wanted to make sure that farmers collecting their own manure and spreading it was allowed. So lower down, on-site generation, storage, composting, and land application of manure produced on the same parcel when conducted in accordance with customary agricultural practices is permitted. As is the sale of compost generated from on-site waste. So,
but we aren't, so does that mean we're not gonna have one big storage unit where everybody brings all the manure and then that's gonna be
correct.
this, but if a farm, we don't have dairy farm or whatever, but they have a manure pit and they compost that, then they could sell that. Maybe wants to come buy a truckload or a scoop to put in their garden, they could do that, but they can't mass market it and sell it to a distributor, go sell it down nursery or whatever.
Yeah. Which is highly unlikely to happen in our valley.
Right, we don't have anything that big,
I'm scrolling down a bit more. Before dairy farms and creameries were allowed, like what creameries were not allowed or something like that. So I combined dairy farm and it says including milk processing and sales, when at least 50% of the milk is produced on farm. And then also farmstead dairy processing, including the production of milk, cheese, butter, yogurt, and similar products from milk produced on the same parcel is permitted. I just wanted to leave the possibility that if someone wanted to have a micro dairy and sell.
Well, absolutely, we had a sheep micro area here for a while, and it was phenomenal, and I think maybe the days are gone that we may not have a cow dairy, but I can see goats or sheep.
Yeah.
And making cheeses, and I can see all of those, and then and you included in compliance with state and federal health regulations, so that covers. I think that covers those concerns.
Yeah. Okay. Jumping down, there's slaughterhouse, which is not permitted. Again, trying to differentiate a small meat processor from like a miller's where they're processing hundreds of cows. I'm just jumping down.
Did you want to talk about dogs?
Yeah.
Dog breeding, dog kennels.
Let me go back up.
I think that's just a carryover, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we tightened it up a bit, but did you have something in mind about dogs?
No, just you'd redlined it last week.
I think I updated the
updated
the wording. So this shall not exceed 10 dogs or more than 10 weeks old per acre. Anytime any buildings or enclosures for animals shall be located not less than 100 feet from public streets and not less than 50 feet from any side or rear property line. So I think before the dog breeding was a little bit more
Okay,
relaxed.
Lucy, yeah, so no puppy mills.
Yeah. We clarified there was a lot of stable and horse information, so we wanted to have that clean across the board. So livestock density shall not exceed 1 horse per quarter acre of land. And I also just put some parameters like manure shall be managed to prevent excessive odors or flies, runoff, or accumulation. It just sets a few parameters so that if someone does have livestock, in this case horses, and it's becoming like if the poop and smell is pouring over to their neighbor's property, there's some sort of parameter that says they cross the line.
What's the density based on?
Like where are we coming up with the number?
Yeah, it's like NRCS or.
Carry over from the county, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember reviewing some of the stuff with livestock, and that was prior to work sessions, and that was my question then was, where does it come from? It should be be nice if it was referenced to like an NRCS standard, if there's stuff like that.
I don't have that now, but that would be nice to put in there so that's not just willy-nilly or whatever.
Right.
I mean, that is, well, I don't know that 1 horse per quarter, well, it says 1 acre is required.
It was half acre.
This says,
I know,
essentially what
it
this
says 1
says
quarter.
is, but it says 1 acre is required to keep horses, so it doesn't mean that if you have a 1/4 acre lot, you can put a horse on it, that is not allowed, if you have an acre lot. It says you could keep 4, which seems like a lot to me,
It is.
so,
But where did I read that it was a half acre, 1 horse per half acre?
I don't know, this was merely a carryover. This was merely a carryover from the county code.
Okay, but how do I build it? I think a 1/4 acre is too small.
Well, I think we can, I agree with Fred, I think we ought to look for something to substantiate that, because I think having 1 horse on 1 acre is smaller than I personally would like, but I'm a horse owner, and I don't know that just my personal preference is really enough. Brian, you have something to say,
Well,
please.
the statement is you must have a minimum of 1 acre to keep a horse, but you can have up to 1 horse per 1/4 acre of land. So if you had 1 acre, you
You
could
can keep
keep.
4 horses, and that's kind of the discussion is 4 horses on an acre. Seems to me as a horse owner, that seems like a lot. I would never do that, but that is my personal feeling,
I
and
guess the
Terry
question
agrees,
is-
but
Yeah,
Let's say, let's
is
see
that
if we-
viable for horses?
I don't think, I think we're talking about that, yes, I mean. I think that is. If the horses are fed and watered, animal control will not come say no. Okay, so I don't know that I personally agree with that, but that is. I don't know that is my,
Okay, so Fred, are you going in?
but if we can find something else that we wanna base that on, I could support that,
I'm gonna see here, NRCS is saying 1 to 2 acres per horse.
And I can tell you no place in the state of Utah requires that.
Well, then there's a difference between, and I'm not a horse owner,
Yeah,
but someone who's grazing their horse on pasture versus many people keep their horse in a stall and then take it out, riding or whatever, but they keep it there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the same is gonna be true for any livestock, right? We're gonna have people who are gonna put too much livestock on their property. I could agree with that. I have 3 horses on 13 acres. My horses I think my horses deserve to live free. And there are a lot of horses who live in 12 by 12 stalls and are taken out to exercise, and they're put in a turnout paddock for a couple hours a day, and they live that way. And I guess that, they're fine, it just isn't my personal preference. So I think this is a good discussion. There is no place in the state of Utah that requires that space for a horse. And then I think if we were gonna do that, we'd have to apply that to other livestock as well. So. Only the discussion,
Yeah.
Do you guys think you want to, that to 2 horses per acre instead of 4? I mean, what are you comfortable with?
I mean, I don't know,
I know.
horse owner, but, my sister has a horse range up in Idaho, but I think, and I could ask her, but I know they have 15 horses, I don't know how many acres they have, but, to me, it seems best if we were to reference a known federal standard for this, an entity that makes recommendations or guidance, or there's probably not a standard, but guidance for horse management. I think that would put us in the strongest footing.
Well, and maybe have conversations with some horse owners.
Well, yeah, I think.
The opinions are probably all over with
But
horse owners, right?
Because we can drive around this valley and I can show you a place that's got 4 horses, that are living in an area as big as this room.
Mhm.
Or, and I don't know how much space they have as far as their total acreage, but the horses are in a crowd that's this big. Um. But. On the flip side, I do think that for us to try to cite in our CS when no place in the entire state uses that kind of a standard, I think we're gonna be set up for some real trouble. Because if we're gonna go tell people they now have to get rid of their horses. Because we've raised the standard, this is kind of like what the property rights of saying, really, are we going to take people's. We're at 3 acre zoning, are we gonna change that to 40 acres? Or, all because they're. Yes, Brian,
If they're keeping horses on a property that you eventually change the ordinance to say that property is too small for horses,
they
they will
grandfathered
still be allowed to keep the horses as a non-conforming use until they get rid of the horses, at which point
Or
it's a
it's
change of
resold.
use.
yeah.
Well, it doesn't
There are
always
spaces.
change with
No,
ownership.
I think
As long as the land use remains the same,
Okay.
Are you guys,
it's still, the non-conforming use is still allowed, but
Okay.
are you more concerned about animal welfare or the impact on neighbors?
Oh,
well,
Oh,
I don't think welfare is our,
That's what I wanted.
I don't.
I don't think that's our purview.
Unfortunately, I don't think the animal, and I am an
I would never
animal
leave my
person.
dog outside for 24/7 and never let into my house, but there's people all over here that do
Right.
that.
And I think we can all think of of places we drive around this valley where we think, wow, that's not really animal welfare. We won't name any of those, but we can all think of all the ones that there are. And I
I don't think that's our real.
don't think that is our wheelhouse. Unfortunately, I think if that's the wheelhouse, then what needs to happen is a report to animal control to say, this is not an environment that's potable, because you can put, and I'm a horse owner, and you can put horses on a smaller amount of property. If you put a horse in a stall with a run, that's fine, and if you take that horse out and work it every day, that's a whole different matter. Or if you turn it out in a space to manage your pasture, so they aren't trampling it in and let it out. People who do that and do it well, do it fine, and people who let it be this deep with manure and let the horses, then they don't have water, it's not their, well, but it's not our purview, it's looking at animal control and whether, can they be turned into animal control, will animal control come to something? I think that's where that has to happen, you know.
And I think you built in protections for the impact to neighbors.
And we did, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, manure shall be managed to prevent excessive odor, flies, runoff accumulation, and. We did that. I'm an animal welfare person, believe me, I want them well taken care of, and it hurts me when I see that they're not. I just don't know that we can,
okay.
I think we gotta keep going.
All right,
we can.
moving on. Yeah, I'll go quick here. Commercial uses, there's agritourism at the top. We talked about trying to get agritourism updated for this discussion, but I think it's just a bigger can of worms.
Yeah.
And that is still conditional because there's definitely a lot of agritourism uses that are more nuanced. I know we're trying to get rid of conditions. Child daycare, we added a few extra provisions just to make sure that someone who's just watching, I think we read in that book, there's like kind of horror stories of someone just watching their neighbor's kid in the city saying, you don't have a permit. So casual, occasional, or cooperative daycare of children, including care provided by neighbors, friends, or family is permitted, so that's not conditioned. In-home care or childcare operated for profit or as a regular business activity is permitted only by conditional use. We can discuss that later if you guys don't like that. We added the same language for the equestrian training and stables as far as horse goes. Golf courses, greenhouse. Churches, synagogues, educational. Under public buildings, we added some caveats because it was just blanketly permitted before. But we said buildings owned and operated by a public agency and used primarily for administrative, civic, governmental, or community service purposes are permitted, providing the use is low intensity and compatible with surrounding land uses. And it does not include correctional facilities, detention facilities, vehicle maintenance yards, bulk material storage, industrial operations, or regional service facilities. And that's what we want, like, if before it was just blanketly allowed, then technically any public building, including a prison or something, could be built in that zone. So that's why we added some caveats. Scrolling down to two-family dwelling, we jumped down a ways. They were not allowed before. We chose to allow them here. That would be like a duplex, and the difference that Brian clarified for us is essentially two different owners could own that same house. If they used a two-family dwelling, that would require two development units, and it could be larger. This would be different than like an ADU, which could be like more of a small, it'd have to be a smaller structure. And Brian said that would potentially help us with affordable housing.
It's essentially a duplex.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
All the public utilities, radio and television towers, water treatment, which put under conditional use, consider citing a scale and public necessity compatible with surrounding use.
One comment I might add there is things like public utility substations, you know, anywhere you're going to have utility service, you're going to have these substations. They really ought to be just an allowed permitted use. But maybe instead of having to jump through all the hoops for a conditional use, just call them a permitted use with certain criteria that need to be met.
Okay.
Such as visual screening, distance from dwelling units.
Is that specified in the
Can you help us,
code?
can you help us craft that language on what pieces need to be?
Or there's some place you can cut and paste that from? And
Yeah, that would be, you know, that would be under the special provisions column there. You just add, you know, public utility substations are allowed, but they have to, you know, you have to have a 7-foot opaque fence around.
Right, you don't want something that's fluorescent orange and screams on a
Right.
substation.
Right.
Yeah.
Because essentially we have to permit them anyway.
Because you really ought to just make them permitted because you can't, you know, they have to be located within certain proximity of the services they're providing.
Does it cover maintenance for them as well? Like, and they stipulate that they need to make sure they're maintained? Like a lot of old century DSL boxes are all blown out from the side of the road.
Right, no kidding.
Yeah. So in
Yeah,
interest of,
we'll have to look at that. That's a good question.
in interest of time, I think, do you want to do the rounds table or whatever we call it? There are further descriptions of some of these uses in the special regulations, essentially creating more parameters around some of them of the permitted uses. But if we read all those, that will take the rest of the day. So.
Okay, we wanna work around and see, give everybody a turn to, raise questions for 2 minutes. Jill, let's start with you and.
No, good job, Tyson. I think based on what Fred suggested, that the density for the horses and whatever probably should be clarified. Even though there's a lot of variation right now and people that have had horses over the years. So the question is, do you want to approach that and put a standard in there? Or just go with what you have and the people are grandfathered in for now?
I want more information for Fred. I want a little bit more.
Yeah, is there another option besides that particular?
But you know what, actually under density, I just see here, it says, it does reference NRCS. USU extension or qualified agricultural professional. I mean, I like
We
that.
did find it.
Where a verified complaint is received, the city may require the property owner to demonstrate compliance through an approved conservation plan, pasture management plan, or other documentation prepared in consultation with NRCS, USU, blah, blah, blah. That's pretty.
Okay, let's leave.
Sorry.
No, that's, I'm fine. And then in our, meeting with Angela and Tyson on the other zone today, ordinances, how are they gonna be enforced? If we put these out there, is that a council? And it's
I think that.
an enforcement officer or?
Is gonna be the council and we, Brian, do you have a comment?
The city council is interviewing for a code enforcement officer position right now. That would be
Yeah.
they would be the front line
And so
person to
at this point, we're just trying to get through what
Sure.
we want the codes to be. Anything more? Okay, Fred.
No, nothing more other than if we can find a standard to reference for those densities, and maybe it's more loose like you're saying, than it's
Let's see what we can pull together, I like that language we were just reading, let's see what we
Yeah.
can pull together, I think that's a good idea. Well, I don't have any additional comments other than I just made, Angela.
Question about the site development standards. We had a little bit of a discussion at the prior meeting about 5 acres, 3 acres, whatnot.
Yeah,
Would you be open to a discussion of adding some nuance to the 3 acre density where, you know, if you cluster and create a percent of the land in agricultural use, then you get the 3 acre density kind of credit or
Yeah.
something of that nature?
personally, I'm in favor of that idea. I don't know, I guess my concern with, is that gonna explode this, we start doing that with our ordinances, is that going to bog them down? Like, is that gonna become too politically charged when it goes to the city council and make it so we can't get just a basic ordinance done? So I guess the question is that something we wanna tackle now or something that we do later on? I don't know.
I don't know, okay, so that's my comment on that,
Yeah.
and then I
And
think.
honestly, if I can respond to that a little bit, I think that too, I would prefer if we're going to do something like that the set aside has to be something that's able to stay in Greenbelt,
I agree.
which is 5 acres.
Yeah, I don't see that be controversial. I mean, people are concerned about their development.
Yeah,
Right, and so you're saying you can have this 3 acre density, right?
but you gotta do a little extra kind of thing, right?
But clusters.
Yeah,
I don't know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious if why it would be controversial.
That's just, I think,
We want to hear it.
But I also think relying on the green belt gives us some backing, you know.
yeah.
And it gives them a tax break.
I
That's
would
true.
be open to modifying,
Okay.
modifying that, and it's gonna take a bit more nuance to clarify that, and I guess Ryan, for that, like if we had density standards for this zone, is that where we would create something where we would say you can have, let's say it's like 5 acre minimum lots unless you do a cluster subdivision and set aside agricultural land? Is this the place that we would do that?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Let's think about that, because I like.
Isn't that already how it is just in 3 acres?
Right, but we're
Because I
talking
don't
about,
have an acre, and nobody else on my street has an acre.
3 though.
you can't do,
No, but I mean, you still might have 20 acres, but in terms of like your density.
But then
credit,
the green space would make up the rest of
Yeah.
that, right? So
Yeah.
one house per 3 acres, but you might have 3/4 acre lots and the rest is green space.
But we're talking about green belts and we're talking about productive agricultural.
Right.
Yeah,
We're
so
talking about-
historically, this would be essentially, we're trying to incentivize
Agriculture.
agricultural land preservation.
Brian and
Well,
Fox.
what you're also talking about doing is downzoning the existing A3 or AB3.
Right.
It's currently 3 units per acre, but you're saying we're going to push the default back to 5 units per acre, or excuse me,
5 acres.
1 unit. per
1
5
unit
acre.
per 5 acre. With the incentive that if they wish to develop, they can go back to the 3 units per acre. With a cluster with an ag remainder parcel. That we protected somehow.
Sorry.
Already unenforced.
It's
for
3
most
1 unit.
people. I don't see that to be in people who want to do agricultural farming. You're setting the stage for a rich person's playground by doing it. That's just my opinion.
Expand on that. 'Cause I don't-
Yeah, I don't know.
Meaning, for instance, if I wanna go buy an acre, right now. It's $420,000 to buy a house. And most of those requirements require you to have 2,500 square feet of office. So now you're. So now you're expecting people who wanna do some sort of agricultural stuff, right? To be able to afford a $2 million house. To be able to do that. You're setting the stage for a rich person's playground. That's Park City.
How is that a playground though? If they're,
We need more,
Because the people who can afford 5 acres and 1 house are not people who live here currently.
We have other areas where we will have smaller zoning, but in the general plan, we have a commitment to promoting agriculture, and we're talking about how
That's my
can
opinion.
we do that.
no, that's good.
So I mean, it's all about us discussing the opinions, yes, Brian.
I would also add that, if historic, well, up until now, property owners have had the expectation of a right of, if they had 30 acres, they could put 10 homes on it. Now they've got 30 acre. If we downzone it to 5 acres per unit, now they can only put 6 units on it instead of 10.
And we don't allow them to
Um,
get pushback.
you're gonna
So we
get-
just need
you're
to decide
going to get
if we're
protests.
Willing to, if that's something
So.
we're willing to address, which is what Tyson's saying.
yeah,
And I get that too. I understand that thinking, but I also think part of the reality is that maybe the expectation is I'm gonna do the 10 homes, but by the time you get around to doing the 10 homes, things might not be in place for you to do that, with water being a really big one. The lack of sewage facilities up here, having to do septic systems, so. I mean, I'm kind of willing to push it a little bit, because I think like the conversation that we had today in our zones. There are zones available within the valley that will accommodate much smaller building lots. So I think, do we have to allow that in every zone? I think that's the purpose of the zone, right? Is to control what's happening in different areas.
I'm not suggesting downzoning. I know maybe it is technically, but I think if you're giving that option for the 3 acre density, it's just a condition. For
Like
the
it's an
3 acres.
incentives type
Yeah,
thing.
you can still take your 30 and build your 3 acre density. It's just a matter of.
yeah, I know it's a matter of semantics, but I can see how someone would spin it.
Okay,
Maybe
so
legally.
now I think, Brian, you understand what she's saying, you could leave it, you'd have your 3 acre zoning,
Oh, yeah.
but.
Oh, I
there's incentives.
understand what the point is. I'm just trying to make sure that you're
Right.
aware of what,
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not be popular?
What the
I just
counter
wanted
argument
to be
will be,
creative in a way to incentivize more.
But I think that's creative.
While still maintaining the density
If
value.
we can play with some of that language, Angela, and look at it, because
So it's bonus density, basically what you're saying is we're gonna go off you a bonus density.
Yeah.
But.
But to be totally clear, it's essentially like, what we're doing is giving someone a smaller Coke can and charging them the same. So it's like you still have it, but you gotta do this extra to get it. So we are down. I'm sorry, I'm not using the words very well here. By saying you have to have 5 acres, like 5 acres to subdivide, but if you want the 3, you've got to do this extra work. We're adding complexity.
It's a trade-off,
It's a
yeah,
trade-off.
for the value to the value.
Yeah.
But, and the other thing is, when you added your duplexes, I think you need to clarify here, duplex on 5 acres or duplex on 3 acres or.
That's a
2
good
acres?
clarification.
it was, I think he said it's the extra zoning lot, so it'd be duplex on 6 acres.
It would require-
5 acre minimum.
Yeah,
Okay,
but we should clarify that. If it's not already somewhere.
Yeah, I think, it was. Unabundant, but I think it said, so you had to have the extra.
and then just a quick, sorry, I didn't know what I'm saying, but then there's a
Oh, yeah.
bizarre signage. Institutional sign is a conditional use.
I think that was a leftover from,
I'm not sure where you are.
Back, I scrolled back up to page 7.
yeah,
Says institutional educational signs are conditional use. And I don't understand, I don't know what that.
I think that was just left over and we didn't know what it was, and so I didn't take it.
Okay, is that
Do you know what an institutional sign would be?
Institutional sign.
educational or institutional, are you?
Seems
That
like-
would not just with that too.
Well, what, I don't know,
we should assign.
what about the little residential treatment center school? We can't call it a residential treatment center because they got their zoning, because they call it a school. Do they have a sign? Is that what we're talking about?
I don't know.
Brian, do you know?
But we'd have a sign ordinance that's kind of brackets the valley, so I don't know how to.
I don't recall seeing that language. She said it was on page 10.
It's on page 6, so bottom of page 6, under institutional uses.
Okay,
It's actually
institutional
Page
uses.
seven, bottom.
Okay, I got you.
Oh, and on mine. On mine.
Educational institutional identification sign. I mean, it would be if you had a school out in the zone, or if you had a church, or some other non-public.
Would that be covered in the sign?
That would be considered as, yeah, I mean, I would just include that in your signage.
So should we just delete
Should we
it?
take that out?
Yeah.
Take that out.
Anything else?
Get rid of it. Anything else?
You, Aaron.
I'm good.
I don't have anything. Yeah. I think it's sad, and then I think it's something.
So the takeaways are we need to do a little more research on horse occupancy, density.
Does
And
any of that get applied to cows?
Same thing, it
I
would be
mean,
like your animal units that
Animal units.
before, I think. I would hope that came from some governmental reference there.
Yeah, that's this week's research.
okay.
Everybody see what they can find, right?
I did. I got a lead where I can.
Great,
Having an acre per animal unit.
I'm sorry.
Having an acre per animal unit for large livestock like cows and horses is very
It's
common.
bad.
You must also consider though that an animal unit is also typically includes
Rats,
mother
mother and baby.
cow and calf,
Or what unit?
mare and foal, that's one unit.
Okay.
So a mother and child is still one animal.
Mhm,
Until the time that.
they're weaned.
Yeah.
So I do have one thing to say on page 14 on the on-farm renewable energy systems, so. We were kind of having a little bit of a discussion about that too, and the
Or farm renewable energy.
Yeah,
wind energy.
right.
When it was. The concern was that putting the wind, oh my brain. Windmill up. I'm wondering if it needs to be, we need to clarify a little bit that as far as size, because that could really get in somebody's face at some point, a neighbor.
I don't think anybody's gonna install one of those Siemens units that you see from here.
Well, I don't think either, I don't think so either, but I have seen some,
It says small scale wind system.
That's small scale,
okay,
I mean, it seems to me that that's part and parcel to agriculture.
okay, and you're
It's
good
wind
with
energy, now I think it's probably shifted more towards
solar.
solar. I mean, you see the solar powered pumps in these remote area for cattle,
Water, yeah.
water, which is
Right.
wonderful. I mean, our discussion was just that, you hate these big windmills that create noise and kill birds and stuff, and
Yeah.
in areas that you've all seen, I'm sure I've seen a lot of in California where they're outdated and they're broken and they just sit there. And I don't, I wanna make sure we don't end up with anything like that in the valley.
Oh, well, that's a point, is there,
Yeah.
if they're
They should be.
if they're out of use, they must be operational, and anything inoperational has to be removed.
Yeah. Would you specifically on renewable energies, you want to put something like that?
Me.
Yeah.
So it doesn't become an eyesore or a safety hazard.
Yeah.
When we moved in our house, we had one of those giant satellite dishes that was, and it was, we were trying to get somebody to haul those away, it was a, yeah.
I mean, Brian, are we on this animal density stuff, are we heading down a path that's not gonna be fruitful to try to find a governmental reference that we would support, or is it just all over the place?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of variability. There's not like a NRCS standard or USDA standard for what an animal unit entails, but the definition basically just means, one animal and a young animal,
I'm sure it changes all over the based on.
it depends on the carrying capacity of the land, like the
Yeah.
BLM has a different AU standard than the Forest Service, who has a different standard than, soil conservation districts all around the country.
Depends what their land's like. Nobody would ever think of putting a horse on 1 acre of land in Kentucky where they have lots of grass, but they have lots of water, and it would be a mud mess. I mean, if you go and look for horse property in Kentucky, they will tell you, you better have 5 acres per horse, or you are gonna make a soggy mud mess. So that, but they have entire counties where you can't have a parcel less than 50 acres. So,
Yes, they do.
anyway.
We also have a valley bigger than most of their counties. So.
Okay. So it appears we're gonna go back, we'll bring this one back next week.
Yep.
Okay, okay, let's move on. FB3, are we ready to talk FB3 at all?
Yeah,
Is that right?
that was Aaron and Tyson and myself, and I think it's in pretty good shape. We didn't really change a lot in there. We took out the golf courses because, looking at the areas that have, there's not enough land that we currently have zoned for FV3 that would accommodate a golf course. And other than that, we didn't make a lot of changes. It's a pretty succinct section. I think everybody could review it, see if they have any questions or comments on it. One thing that I do think is when you get down to permitted signs and regulations, and this would be a comment I would have for all of our sections. Is it possible, Brian, to have one signage section that we would just reference for all these sections?
Yeah, that's what Weber County has done, and you may notice in the old code that it does just point to signage regulation, and they had a whole subchapter just on Ogden Valley sign rules that was different from the rest of the county.
So we would take that out here, and that's
what I would recommend is we look at adopting a similar separate sign ordinance, and then just make sure that all of the other development zones point to that one for reference. Similar with outdoor lighting, we should do the same thing with the dark sky ordinance and outdoor lighting.
So would you make that edit in here and reference our future to be determined signage?
Yeah.
It is, okay, cool.
I haven't thought about permitted uses, and I'm looking, once again, I'm thinking about the animals. We have, here you have horses for 5 use only, and not more than 2 horses may be kept for each acre of land. I think we would want to be consistent in what we say. And also, are there animals may be kept for family food production? There are a lot of people in Forest Valley 3 zones that have pet goats. And other things, are we saying that we're not allowing that kind of livestock pet? What about family food production? I guess that would take care of chickens, they can have their chickens, but.
That's like another wording that's used in the last one we just talked about. So that's for the animal units. We talked about possibly copying over some of the.
And that would need, that's what we're talking about, still doing that.
Right.
Okay.
So
I think that those permitted uses, I think then that needs to probably be consistent. There are horses up in Nordic Valley, those people have horses on their properties up there, and I think we ought to be consistent in our language. Between zones. So whatever we do with that, okay?
Yeah, I was gonna wait till we went over the AB3 today, just to see
Yeah.
how much we changed, and then, okay. So after today, I can copy over
Okay,
some of
so
that stuff,
Okay,
and then
any,
as a team, we'll have to go over one more time to make sure we don't, yeah. And even though I'm not presenting, but like you'll see this one's formatted totally different, like it has permitted and conditional uses, but it would be nice if the formatting, and I don't know where you step in for this, Brian, but if we copy stuff over, if you'll eventually create a similar format across all ordinance.
cause this one does not have a table and the other one.
Yeah, the county didn't make theirs very consistent, but yeah, that would be a great template.
Okay.
Would be to clean that up and make those stylistically
That would be.
consistent.
You guys would go in, okay.
You know, once you get 800-900 pages of code, it gets really hard. When you update one year and then you don't update the next for 7 years, it makes it challenging to.
Yes. Angela, you got a question?
I don't know if the presentation, are you finished presenting here?
Yeah,
Couple of things. One, sort of high level for everybody as we're looking at these zones. I think some of the names don't necessarily represent what they are. Valley is attached to everything because when it was Weber County, this identified a zone specifically for the valley. But now that they're all valley, that might be a little redundant. And so, and I think also influences people's perception of what these are, right? So I wonder, in ours, we're recommending a different nomenclature, but would forest residential or some other designation like forest valley just doesn't.
I like that.
we have forest residential already.
Maybe FR2 then, or.
Or just forest zone.
We were gonna change our forest residential to something else, so you.
Oh.
Because we don't think
Yeah,
that
I
FR
see.
represents forest residential.
Okay, well, you pick yours and then we'll,
So, well, I don't wanna see behind too much, but forest residential, we think might be more appropriately named, mountain or whatever.
oh, it changed.
Yeah, something else.
But not.
But it's not in the
just not
forest.
this one.
Or likely to be, whereas this is, and so if this were forest residential and then we designated. What's
Forest
residential
to something else.
more appropriate to the description.
Something that, yeah, something that actually explains what the
I think
zone
people,
is.
yeah, there are conceptions about, oh,
We're
it's just, yeah.
so
Anyway.
if you're gonna think about that, I guess we can. Well, sounds like it's coming back next week for another read, we can like
Yeah.
think about that and be ready, let's not beat the dead horse, but yeah.
And then the other thing was just bringing up, again, kind of high level question for everybody about conditional uses, because what I kept hearing from Craig, Paul and others and Brian, and just be very careful with the application of conditional uses because they're basically permitted, right? So is there something we can do if we want to allow these listed under into conditional use?
Yeah.
Allow them, but then put in the qualifications that you would normally evaluate. Or in a special regulation.
Well, and what would normally be reviewed under the.
But what are you
use
concerned about,
process?
that you're not putting it directly in
Right.
permitted use, and then
I
head
think
it out
that's-
now, so that, people planning their projects, oh, okay, this is going to address when I want to put in a bed and breakfast. I mean, just maybe there are
I like that.
places where we need conditional uses, but I just.
That's a lot.
I mean,
That
yeah.
you're going to get those uses, right?
Yeah, we talked about that, too, the desire to stay, move away from conditional uses, but this one has a lot of specifics, the conditional uses has a lot of specifics associated with the conditional use, and it seemed like.
What we're saying is, why not just make it a permitted use? If it
And
already
then,
has that.
and I think that was part of what we did with AV, is we moved those conditional uses up, made them permitted and said, here's what's permitted.
Permitted
According
with
to-
these,
With these
these
things.
restrictions,
Mhm.
whatever, yeah.
Right.
No, that's, I'm Totally.
Okay. Anything more?
That's all I have.
Carson, you know,
Good.
Emerson, Terry, Jim, we
Now
know.
that we brought up what I was thinking.
Okay, so that one's gonna come back, it's gonna get a rework, and we'll look at it again next week and hopefully we'll.
Yeah, we'll make
The
the-
reword is that Tyson's gonna bring in some more stuff from the ag
Yeah.
zone, and then Brian would reformat it. Address the lighting stuff and.
And you guys will
And
go
we'll-
through the conditional uses and try to break that out. So you're permitting what we want and getting rid of the conditional
Well, I
uses
think,
that
yeah,
move them over, we did that.
I would just, if, when you do the formatting, Brian, make it like, go ahead and address that. So make that a permitted use with these requirements, you know what I mean?
I can work on it, it's fine.
Okay, okay. She worked on helps with the AD one too, so she kind of knows what we did with that.
And so that would be on the final final draft chapter 104-14 Porch Valley Zone,
Yeah.
right? That's the one you.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because there's
Okay,
other
Where's
ones.
the- I know.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, look, we've got one more for Forest Residential 3.
So I guess, we're gonna need more than 10 minutes, are we okay extending a little past 8, or do you wanna postpone, or just
I
get
thought
through
we were
a
rolling
meeting?
over just because the discussions have been a lot more involved than I.
What do you wanna do?
Um,
Are we can in 10 minutes, or just?
let's start with an overview, how close do you think this one is?
I think we feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, we do.
Let's get going and see if we can, it'd be nice if we,
Enough, thank you, Bert.
even if we say 10 minutes or, yeah, later, Friday.
Okay, so, we're gonna tag team this, hopefully get through that, but. As I mentioned, we're open to, do you wanna pull that up? Kathy?
Yeah.
Thank you. What's currently Forest Residential 3, so just high level, getting to the point that Brian made at the beginning about maps. We don't see any need to change the map, what's currently zoned FR3, we're fine keeping that map and just applying this modified zone to it, so just FYI. But we do think the name doesn't reflect, so while we're not substantially changing the zone, we do want to think about it in the future. So that was the maybe mountain residential, we're open to, creative ideas there, but more refined. So there's no FR3, so we deleted that. So we changed the description, again, just to be more in line with what's on the ground now and the platted parcels that are zoned this didn't seem to make sense with the intent and purpose stated, which was all about recreational resort complex, and it's really not any resort. So we're saying zone is intended to accommodate established medium density residential development in the form of detached single family and attached and multi-unit housing in defined areas of the valley. Zone recognizes the existing and townhome patterns and provides standards for their continued residential use, whether owner occupied or rented. Purpose of the zone is to allow compact residential development with limited geographic area while preserving broader rural and agricultural character of surrounding areas. So we could talk, reaction to that. And then just some cleanup and clarification. We are in this proposing to get rid of conditional uses, but we've moved some conditional uses to permitted, some to non-permitted. We've essentially kept the permitted uses as they are. So for instance, moved the lockout room to non-permitted. We've moved the conference education to non-permitted. We've permitted the public building, it was a conditional use, and we've, according to Brian, no, yes, we have to keep those permitted. We've moved bed and breakfast to non-permitted, and we've changed the multifamily from conditional to permitted, recognizing the condo situation. Group dwelling is pretty much covered by the residential facility for protected class. So I think that's just kind of redundancy. It's not that we won't have group housing, because you're required to, the need arises.
I also think there was a difference in definition with group housing that Weber County was using in this chapter. They were referring to homes that were grouped around a common space, like townhomes or a cottage subdivision or something where you had multiple. I mean, the definition literally just said multiple units or multiple dwellings built around a common green or open space. And so
Add that with multi-family covered.
yeah, that can be covered in, I agree. I think just it's a redundant term for multifamily.
We have short-term rental. I know that's gonna be a whole separate discussion. So we can touch that. And then private parks, conditional, we can permitted, private parks. Conditional to permitted, and then we would just want to have further discussion about lighting, noise, hours of operation to make sure that it's not disturbing residents. Public utility station substations, similarly, whatever regulations we can put in place to control any nuisance to residents. We're not sure there was water storage was designated as not permitted, and we're not clear why that would be. So it is permitted as needed. I don't know if there's any argument. Somebody can have an opinion about
I
that.
wonder what that, does that mean a gigantic water
It
tank?
says water storage reservoir.
Or does that
It
mean,
means that it's a utility situation, so I don't. Yeah, we couldn't quite, and
I think we need to maybe have a better description of what that is. I mean, that's like out in West Weaver, the big huge water tanks that are
That'd be cool, we have them instead of Ogden Valley City.
on the Dallas City.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And is it a public water storage reservoir? Developed by.
I don't know.
how about I put a little extra park on that
Yeah.
one, and then let Tyson, it took my 5 minutes, and give Tyson the other 5 to take over on special regulations.
Actually, Brian did comment on the water usage there. Can you see it in the document?
Oh, there it is. Right here.
You're different. Copy than I am. I have a different copy.
I did add a statement that, conditions could be placed to limit size, location on slopes,
Yeah.
screening, things like that. But yeah, typically when they're talking about these water storage reservoirs that we're talking about, like the, 500,000 gallon capacity storage facilities for subdivisions to provide,
I think
fire
Be
suppression.
conditional, because I think that's gonna be subject to what is the impact on other water users in the valley.
Okay, you make that additional.
Sorry, I think that.
The quick part on my end is nothing too substantial. This zone's it was created, if you look at the map, it's clearly created by the developers at some point to develop this space.
Mhm.
So almost all of it already is condos, but there were animal allowances permitted in there. And just to make sure we're not limiting any agricultural use that's already going on there, or anyone else who wants to keep farming a parcel that's in that zone, we just copied over some of those same grazing requirements, as well as some of the home food production requirements as far as animal units.
Okay.
And just it's like,
I'm looking at a different version than, because the one, I'm looking at
the
the
final
final
version?
it says final draft forest residential, and that's not, I don't have that.
yeah,
That's none of that. It says animal grazing is not allowed.
Look at the working copy.
the working
That's
copy.
where all the
Okay.
comments are.
So I think that's fairly
Working.
inconsequential. We just mostly didn't want to.
Hey,
We do not want to
Yeah.
harass any farmers.
I guess, and one of my questions is, what about, there are there some parcels up there, like, I think of Jahanamani has a big place with a big barn and horses and pastures and things, and is that within that zone, or is he within another zone? And there's some other houses in there that are homes with property with horses or goats or other things, and so if you've done that, Tyler, because I'm looking at Tyson, I'm looking at a different version now, so.
I haven't gone and driven the zone to see.
I haven't either, but
So it was more like
I think we have to, that's
catch-up.
looking at the map to
Yeah,
to see who's where. But it is in between the.
it's a very small zone, which is almost at least 90% already developed with condos.
Right, and if it, I mean.
So is Jahan, he's below that then, isn't he?
I don't know if he is or not.
Hmm.
That would be.
You're talking about the one that's on the other side of the reservoir?
It's on the road going up toward Powder Mountain, on the right side, they've got an iron fence in the front. And there's a big house and there's a huge barn and an indoor arena and all sorts of stuff. Do you see it?
I don't think he is. Looks like it.
He's on it then.
I think so. There's still one small farm.
But even if he wasn't,
I think this is where the,
make it, he would go and do the,
let's try to get this.
He's right on the road.
yeah, he is.
Yeah, past
Let's
the,
see where we're at.
Yeah.
past the
It
market.
was even new.
Past the market, before you get to the condos, but right, I think, pretty close to the condos.
Jahan's not in it.
Is that that?
I think he's an AB3.
Okay, do that. Fine, that's fine.
So, and we weren't too worried about allowing the animals because whatever, almost all the areas probably already covered by an HOA. So whatever we say is permitted for animals will be overridden by HOA.
Okay, and if those residences that are there are in 83, then that's fine, we don't have any concerns with them.
Okay.
Alright, feedback, questions?
What do we think about this one? Do we think this is one we can move forward? That would be nice if we could, or do we think we need to take one last look at it? When you, did you copy the language over for stabling, no more than 2 horses per acre? I think, once again, I think we need consistency.
Is that what that says? Let me look.
Stable for, animal-related non-commercial uses, stable for horses, non-commercial. Horses shall be non-commercial use only, okay, but no more than 2 horses shall be kept for each acre. This matches the Forest Valley zone, but it doesn't, but we should, I kind of think we need to be consistent with what we're saying, if we're gonna look for
Yeah,
something to base that on.
yeah, I think that was just to run
I don't know if we're ready immediately, if it's in Brian.
it. Have a few tweaks.
Work to do to find, I didn't realize you put a final together, because we've been editing this other.
Well, no, that's fine, that's fine.
So we'll review a final.
Your working copies are in better shape anyway, so.
There's some pieces and parts we wanna
Yeah.
have about when we
Yeah.
move from conditional to permitted, what are
Right.
the parameters we wanna define and work.
Okay, so this was pretty close, but we bring it back.
Yeah.
We'll need to bring it back next week, okay. Alright. We've gotten through a lot of work, this was a lot of work, thank you, thanks everybody, this was a big lift this week and we. Aren't ready to release them yet, but I think maybe next week, where it's gonna be a quick one for these, to maybe get there. Do I hear? Are we ready? I would hear a motion to adjourn.
Motion adjourned.
It was ready. Hey, all in
It's
favor?
right in here.
Okay, thanks everybody.
Thank you.